This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Holidays there's such a trigger for grief. So I would love to see this also as a platform to help people through those moments, whether it's Mother's Day, Father's Day, Halloween, Christmas, having a space where you can get through those moments that happen every single year, and they always feel like crap.
Right. They never feel
you
good.
Know,
yeah.
They never feel good. Grief or not, holidays are hard, you know?
This is the Heart of Hospice podcast with Helen Bauer. Janelle Ketcher feels that writing letters when we're grieving can have meaning for the griever. She's come up with a letter writing project called Postal Service for the Dead. Whether you're a family caregiver or an end-of-life professional, the Heart of Hospice is here to enhance your hospice experience by connecting you with information you can use about end-of-life care.
As a caregiver, you want comfort and dignity for your patient and convenience for yourself. The Quick Change Wrap offers all of that with a life-changing way to address male incontinence. It folds around the source of urine and wicks it away, protecting surrounding skin, clothing, and bedding. Use the Quick Change by itself or with an adult diaper for superior protection. A single caregiver can quickly change the wrap with no lifting or turning the patient. 800 hospitals use it. Now you can get it at home. Visit quickchange.com now. Today's episode is sponsored by Odonata Care. Odonata's motto is, "Care is treatment." They've made it their mission to transform the end-of-life experience for the patient and caregivers through education and support. With 50 free YouTube videos that teach bedside care and their booklet, The Care Plan, A Path to Comfort for the Hospice Patient, Odonata Care is revolutionizing the hospice experience. Visit thecareplan.net for more information. Now, here's today's episode.
My guest today is a very unique young woman. She is doing some amazing work with a project called Postal Service for the Dead. Janelle Ketcher has a BFA in Painting, Art History, and Social Practice. She received a certification in Social Emotional Arts from UCLA Arts and Healing, and she completed her end-of-life training program at Going with Grace. So she's also an end-of-life doula. This lady is empathic, creative, insightful, and I love the work that she's doing. I don't want to tell too much of her story because she can really tell it the best. So here's my conversation with Janelle Ketcher from Postal Service for the Dead. Janelle, it's so great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So I really wish we were recording video today as well as audio because you have on an awesome sweatshirt. Looks like it's some merch for Postal Service for the Dead.
Yeah, I just got this prototype and I'll be adding it to our website soon. But I'll have sweatshirts and a sticker and a baseball cap that people can purchase if they want to support the project and help raise awareness as well.
I love it. I might have to get one of those for myself.
Be fashionable.
I know, right? Well, we're going to jump in. I've already introduced our listeners to the work that you're doing, Postal Service for the Dead, which sounds crazy until you know what it is. So tell me about Postal Service for the Dead and the work that you're doing.
Yeah, so Postal Service for the Dead is a project where people can send in letters, like write in letters and send in letters to people in their life who have died. Our P.O. box is based in Los Angeles, but people from all over the world can send in letters, postcards, whatever.
That's awesome. I love it. What was the motivation for starting something like this, and what's the purpose of it?
Yeah, I actually was thinking about this, and there's kind of two parts to it. So there was like the inspiration part and then the motivation part. But the inspiration came on my mom's birthday was in 2022, November 30th, 2022. Her birthday is November 30th. But last year, on her birthday, I woke up and I really just had this pull to send her a birthday card. But unfortunately, she did die in 2019, so there was no space or place for me to send that card. So that's kind of where the idea started. I was like, oh, damn, like that would be really cool if that existed, like a place for people to send cards. So that was the inspiration. And then the motivation was I'm actually an artist, among other things. I'm also a trained death doula. I did a training with Going with Grace, their program. So the motivation was also to bring together these different skill sets I have and provide that resource to people. So yeah, combination of inspiration and motivation. Oh, and I am also kind of shifting gears in my life professionally from nonprofit arts administration into the library science world. So this project is also giving me an opportunity to practice some archival, archival practices that I'm interested in. So it's a meshing of many things that I'm interested in.
I am really interested in how this process works, but let's touch back to the inspiration that you had. So your mom passed away in 2019, and then we went straight into the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the grief support and connection that we would have had went away for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we processed grief differently. And of course, grief was a huge discussion globally because of what was happening to everyone. How do you think that affected your grieving process? And do you think maybe that was part of the inspiration for Postal Service for the Dead?
That's a good question. So, I mean, as anyone's grief is very unique to themselves and their experiences. For myself, and I also say, like, I like to talk in terms of like we, not only in terms of this project, but just for myself as well, because I do have two older sisters, and like we experienced along with our mom that whole journey together. So I do think in terms of we a lot, but we had a lot of like prolonged and anticipatory grief in our experience because my mom had frontal temporal dementia. So she was going through that journey for about 10 years. So by the time she actually died, as I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people on this podcast about, like, there was some sense of relief. There was like a closing of a chapter. And then I think like the second part, I guess, after that is like once she did die, I don't know. I guess I've always been really drawn to organizing events and bringing people together and connecting people and bringing awareness to not only dementia, but to end of life and death as well. So I think this project, over like a slow accumulation of like other things that like have happened in my life and other projects I've taken on, it kind of fulfilled in a really timely way, like a new part of my grief in which like I now want to, how do I explain this? It's kind of like beyond me at this point. Like I feel, not that I've resolved my grief, but I'm on this like next stage of wanting to give space for other people's grief. Does that make sense?
It does. To me, it sounds like you've created some meaning from not just your mother's loss, but from the grief that you experienced. And now you're able to share it in a meaningful way and provide an avenue for other people to express their grief in a very unique way. I love the creative process of this. So let's talk about that part. What is the actual process for a letter that somebody would write?
Yeah, so it starts with writing the letter. And as I said, there's no expectation of what that letter looks like. It can be a nice reminiscent letter. It can be a letter about some grievances you had. It could be a letter about questions that were unanswered. Whatever needs to be in that letter to be helpful, that's great. We've even had people just a simple, like, thinking of you card. Nothing really in it, just a signature. And if that's what it is to be helpful, that's great. So people send the letter just like you would normally to any other letter to our P.O. box. And then I check our P.O. box. It's actually in my neighborhood, so I get the pleasure of walking there on a weekly basis to go check it. And that whole process for me is actually really wonderful. I love going on walks, and I love being in the sunshine, and I love post offices. So it's just a great experience for me. But I go and I check our P.O. box, and if I do receive anything, I tend to read it right away if I have permission. So a big part of this project is there's 3 layers of, I don't know what to call it, access that the people sending letters are providing our team. The first one is if you just want to send a letter but don't want anyone to read it, you have that ability to do so. So people sending in letters will leave the envelope blank. The next level is if you want someone to read it but not share it on social media, then you put a heart on the back of the envelope. If you want to have our team read it and share it on social media, then you put a star. So that allows, I think, space for people who might be more comfortable or not in sharing their grief journey or their experiences, as well as just confidentiality. If you're going to write something that's really confidential, then you have a safe space to do that. And then once I receive the letters, read them if I have permission, the next step is I bring them home and I have a little archival box that I put the letters in. And then when I have time, I digitize them. So I scan them and I have a whole naming system for them. And that process is also really nerdy and fun for me as well.
Well, that's part of your archival library science stuff. So
yes,
it's really cool. I love what you're doing. So there's so many things I want to talk about with this. I just think this is fascinating. I love the fact that it's like an offloading of something you wanted to say to somebody. I think a lot of times we don't get to say what we want to say before someone dies, or we're hesitant to do it. So there are things that go unsaid, things that are left between us, maybe things that we would never say to someone else. I wanted to tell my mom this before she died. I wish I could have told my dad this before he died.
Right. Or even a lot of people who, there's a couple other experiences too. If you're a caregiver and you're in the, just survival mode of taking care of someone, you might not even think of the things you want to say until, from my experience, like I'm now 4 years out from my mom's death, and now I'm thinking of things, conversations I wish we would have had, things I wish I would have said, but I wasn't considering those at the time.
Right. It was more about being her caregiver and being, I don't want to say busy, but taking care of the mechanics and the day-to-day tasks that needed to be done. Yeah, that's true. Maybe sometimes we just don't have the energy and the bandwidth as caregivers to get to those conversations.
Exactly. I was going to say too, one of our letters that we've received is, and I'm sure a lot of people experience this too, is an unexpected death. So you didn't know, the time wasn't there to say something.
Right. There wasn't time to say what you wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get a letter that has a star on the back of it, says
Mm-hmm.
you can open it and you can read it and you can share it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the purpose behind sharing it on social media?
Oh, yeah. I think, well, first and foremost, it brings awareness to the death and grieving process. I think it humanizes. I mean, obviously, it's a very human thing. We all die, but it really humanizes the process, maybe for people who are not as comfortable talking about death.
Right.
It demonstrates all the different types of way in which we can die and grieve by showing everyone's different experiences. I think it also, I'm assuming for people who send it in and put that star in the back, they want their story to be heard and they want to share that. But it's in this kind of safe space where they don't have to, vocalize it themselves, but it's still being broadcast to like really the whole world.
Right.
And that's really powerful. So it's whether it's like, it could be really healing for them to share that information. And they could be really healing. It could, like, there could be information there that they want other people to know. So not only healing, but like, I really believe anyone who puts the star in the back, and this is actually no pressure for people to do that. Like, I really value people's privacy and confidentiality, but for people who put the star, it's also advocacy work, I think, because in sharing your own story, you're kind of being an advocate for more openness around death and grief and all the things in between.
So do you depersonalize the messages or the letters that are written when you put them? So like if I were to sign, so-and-so and so-and-so, and then sign my name, Jane Doe, down at the bottom, do you take that part out? I
do. I just on Photoshop, after I've digitized them, I go in and block out any mentions of names. Mm-hmm. I think my original intention with that is that it would make people feel safer to share their stories.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because and also I think it honors potentially the people who have died. They have not given say to be a part of this project per se. So if there is mention of their names, I want to honor their privacy as well.
That's an interesting viewpoint. But I like that. It's almost anonymous, and yet it's so very personal and very human. Mm-hmm. I love the way you respect privacy like that. I think that's so important. What do you think people get out of writing these letters?
I hope they feel a sense of connectedness and maybe feel a little less alone. Grief can be really isolating, even though it's one of the things we all will experience. But I think it can be isolating because it's so personal. So I hope people feel connected. I hope they feel maybe a sense of relief. And connected not only to, still to this world, this living world, but a sense of connection, if they want that, to the person who has passed. I think there's also this, this is like going down a little bit more of a path, but I am very into trying to find little rituals in our life. I could go off more on that, but like I hope that for me, the process of walking to the post office, receiving this mail is very much a little ritual. And I kind of hope that for other people too. Like, I don't know, I've always loved sending letters, and I feel like that is such an ingrained thing across our world. It's like walking to the post office. Like, that's such a beautiful, it's just a beautiful gesture. And to do it for a thing that's not necessarily tangible anymore, that person is not tangible in your life anymore, it makes it, I guess, makes the death feel more real in a way.
Yeah.
So I hope it makes, I don't know what it is for people. I would love for people to message me on Instagram if they have participated, and let me know what the experience was for them. I'm only assuming what it is, but.
Well, and maybe it's a lot like grief when it comes to how individuals feel about it. Everybody's grief journey is that little bit different. So maybe different people's experience with their writing their own letters feels a little bit different. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with whether you felt close to that person, what emotion you want to express, whether it's regret or anger or longing, all those different things. So a lot like grief, everybody gets their own version of benefit,
right.
And I would even say a form of self-care by writing the letter. Yeah.
I mean, and like, I don't take credit for like writing and grief has been like a huge therapeutic tool, like across many, there's many ways to do that. So,
right.
But I mean, that is like definitely writing through your grief is very therapeutic.
I think what you're doing might be, not to rag on grief journaling, not to be disrespectful of that, but when I think about journaling, sometimes that sounds like work. Like, I have to keep going. I need to do it every day. It's just something else I have to take care of. And yet I feel this heaviness in my grief. And maybe I don't have time for that. But to sit down and write a letter, it doesn't have to be long. You're not looking for a thesis. It's not even an essay or a research paper. You're just looking for a note. A few sentences, if that's all you feel like expressing. I think maybe that's more bite-sized for most people, especially if they're having some intense grief emotions.
I'm hoping to provide some resources, like writing prompts and things around this. But there's also this connection with like the U.S. Postal Service, typical, and holidays. And holidays there's such a trigger for grief. So I would love to see this also as a platform to help people through those moments, whether it's Mother's Day, Father's Day, Halloween, Christmas, having a space where you can get through those moments that happen every single year, and they always feel like crap.
Right. They never feel good. Yeah.
They never feel good. Grief or not, holidays are hard,
True. What about deathversaries? The anniversary of the death. That's a major one. I've heard people talk about when the year rolls over, that New Year's Eve and New Year's Day is difficult because, like, if you had a loss in 2022, when the year rolls over to 2023, it's a closing of the year that you lost that person. There's something significant. It's a milestone. So all those holidays, they really do. Those things bring up a lot of grief emotions.
If you're a caregiver for your dad, brother, or son, you know how exhausting it can be, especially when trying to manage male incontinence. It's very difficult to provide the dignity and comfort he deserves. Let us introduce you to the Quick Change Wrap. It's an incontinence wrap that is effective, convenient, and will change the way you provide care to your male patient, for the better. The Quick Change Wrap folds around the source of urine and wicks it away, protecting surrounding skin, clothing, and bedding. If you're a single caregiver, you'll be able to change the wrap by yourself with no lifting or turning. There's hardly any disruption to your male patient. In fact, he doesn't even have to be awake. It takes just a minute or two for one person to change the quick change wrap regardless of size, anatomy, or weight of the patient. Use the quick change by itself or with an adult diaper for superior protection. 800 hospitals use it. Now you can get it at home. Visit quickchange.com now. The Heart of Hospice is excited to connect you with Odonata Care. The owners and founders, Nancy Hireman and Brenda Kazire, are experts in end-of-life care with over 40 years combined experience as certified hospice and palliative nurses. They are the hospice care queens. Odonata's mission is to transform the end-of-life experience through education and support. Their 32-page booklet, The Care Plan, A Path to Comfort for the Hospice Patient, empowers patients and their caregivers with valuable information that can be accessed anytime, day or night. Odonata Care also offers a suite of 50 free YouTube videos that teach both bedside care for the public and caregivers and train professionals new to the practice of hospice. Odonata Care wants to support every patient admitted to hospice care. Their bottom line is caring for the patient, and that's why their motto is, Care is Treatment. Purchase copies of the Care Plan for yourself or your hospice agency at thecareplan.net. Now, back to today's episode.
So, Janelle, I kind of want to hear some of the things that people are writing in the letters to you.
Yeah.
You'll have to pick and choose. Obviously, you can't share everything. But what are some of the things that you have found moving?
Yeah.
In the stuff that people are writing?
A few of them have been just little updates on like that person, that the living person's life since their dead person died. And that's really lovely to me because I think that's definitely something I struggle in my grief, is like, I really grieve not being able to just pick up the phone and call my mom and give her a little update on like my accomplishments or like a hard thing that's happening in my life. So those really tickle me because I think I just personally resonate with that. One that I received, and we can choose to include this or not, and I did end up posting it to social media because it had the star in it. So to me, that signified the person wanted to share the story. One of the letters we received, though, alluded to domestic violence and potential death because of that. And that was a really hard letter for me to receive, not only because the content was challenging, but in terms of sharing that publicly, like my responsibility in the digital landscape and digital community on how to share that information.
Right.
That was definitely a challenge, but I chose to share it, and I provided a resource to, I think, the National Domestic Violence Organization. But that was a really powerful letter. It was a friend who was not able to say goodbye to their friend who had died. And that was really, that was just really powerful to me, in that I felt proud that they felt safe to share that information.
Yeah.
And with the star, that signified to me they wanted to share that information in case that could help anyone else.
Right. It takes a lot of strength to do that.
Mm-hmm.
When you have an empathic side, an empathic nature, and you're reading through all these letters, that's got to get heavy sometimes for you.
Yeah. I don't know if this sounds weird, but it just really, even the tough things, it really brings me joy to receive people's grief, because it's really an honor. And I'll preface with, in my day-to-day life, I don't always, I think, receive it perfectly. I think it's really hard. This is like a PSA to anyone listening. It's really hard to receive grief. And sometimes you're not going to say the right thing, do the right thing. And this project has been a reminder to me that literally, I think the best thing you can do sometimes is just receive it. Because in this instance, that's all I can do. I'm just receiving it. I'm not saying anything in return. I might be sharing on social media given permission. But yeah, at this time, and maybe it's a quantity thing, at this time, they're coming in a nicely paced way. It's just a couple of months so far that it doesn't feel overwhelming, and it doesn't feel too much. And I think that's maybe my understanding. It's like, people are dying every day. Of course this is happening. So then to receive people's experiences with it is just, yeah, it truly just like brings me a lot of joy in an odd way. And it's very humbling, and I'm very grateful.
I think you just hit on what every end-of-life worker, every hospice professional, every death doula, anybody that works with people at the end of life, what we feel every day. It sounds crazy. It's very counterintuitive, but it is an honor and a joy to companion and walk with people when they do this. And it is a joy to be able to receive their grief and carry it with them. Mm-hmm. As far as being able to say the right thing, even the most seasoned hospice professionals say stupid stuff. We've all done it. And the fact of the matter is, even if you say great things when you receive someone's grief expression from them, our response may not fit what they need.
Right.
Regardless. So you sort of have a private, neutral space to receive that, and there's no expectation of a response from you.
Yep.
I kind of like that.
Yep. And I guess it's like a reminder for me in my like day-to-day life. It's like if someone comes to you with those big feelings, and I try and practice this in my personal relationships, but it's really hard to do sometimes. But just that question of, do you want me to respond? Do you just want space? Do you want to problem solve? Giving that person an opportunity to be like, okay, you gave me this really personal, important information. How do you want me to carry it?
Right.
And this project already has it laid out. People already know exactly what's going to happen with it when they provide the information.
Right. It's a safer place. They don't expect a response from you, so they don't have to worry about whether the reader's response will hurt.
Yeah.
I like that. That. So when you're reading, I have to ask, when I get a letter, I go to walk to the mailbox, which is just, right in front of my house. I get a personal letter and I immediately rip it open. It's not one of those, I get a paper cutter, a letter opener, and I do it very neatly. I'm like, I got to see what this person wrote to me, because letter writing is a lost art these days. People just don't do it. So do you have a ritual for actually opening the letters? Do you carry them back with you after your walk and find a quiet space to open them so you can process what's inside?
Yeah, I think the first couple, I was so excited. I'm still really excited every time I get one. But the first couple, I was so excited. I opened them up right away. Mm-hmm. But then I was just kind of zhuzhing around my room and cleaning stuff up, and I found a wooden envelope opener mm-hmm. that my Nana had given me. So I've kind of incorporated that into the ritual as well. As like I wait to get home, practicing patience always, and then I use that to open it up, and that feels really serendipitous, because like truly my Nana really ingrained in us, like not only like writing thank you letters. She was like, you have to write thank you, like that's just what you do. And it's like, yeah, sure. Of course, yeah, write thank you letters. But also she's been such a good role model to me in keeping up relationships. She's still, she's very old. She's 95. A lot of her friends and family and loved ones have since died, but like she kept up friendships from her childhood and all points of her life. And so I don't know, that little opener just reminds me of her and the values that she's kind of instilled in me.
I like that. I love that. So let's talk self-care, right? We talk about self-care on almost every one of my podcasts. It's become sort of an overused phrase, right?
Yep.
Because people just expect self-care to happen so easily. And, you're supposed to know how to do it automatically and know when you need it. And of course, we stink at it, right? I stink at it. But when you're reading through these letters, and I know you're early on in the project, right? You haven't had an onslaught of letters, but there's a possibility that you're going to experience some compassion fatigue, some secondary grief from the things that you're reading. What do you do to take care of yourself in instances like that? I mean, surely in your work as a doula, you've experienced some of that.
Yeah. So a little background, I work at a public library right now. I also do these art projects. I'm also a freelance graphic designer, and I also love like volunteering, and I have a lot of friends and I like to keep up with those friends. So at any given time, I always have a lot going on, which I love. And that's like my personality. And I do have to remind myself that not all the things have to happen all the time. So I try and and I'm going to school as well. So there's like a lot of things.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It keeps me on my toes. So, I mean, just even recently, like, learning to figure out what is the priority. And I don't mean in terms of deadlines sometimes, because I'm a freelance worker and sometimes I give myself deadlines and I can't make them. So giving myself grace that's okay, because a priority, sometimes a freelance deadline might have less of a priority than doing my dishes. And for me, that's self-care, like taking care of myself, my body, and taking care of my home is very much a part of my self-care practice. Of course, and cleaning can get really annoying. And like, if you live with roommates or if you have a partner, which I do, there's always dynamics there. But like, sure. I really do. I love laundry. I love cleaning because it allows my mind to just kind of be at ease for a while. I love going on walks. I love cooking. I love spending time with friends. So for me, self-care is, if you visualize like a plate of food, it's like looking what's on your plate and like maybe figuring out like what you have to put in a Tupperware container and put in the fridge for a while or put in the freezer and you can pull it back out. It's still going to taste good. You just got to let it dethaw. So knowing what you have to like move around to get all the nutrients you need. That's a pretty good metaphor.
I like that. It's basically learning to prioritize and picking and choosing and setting boundaries on how much, on what your portion of different things would be.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I think too, I've been thinking about this a lot so I'm 30. Our mom died when I was 27. So yeah, 26. I don't know. And we were, caring for her for 10 years previous to that. So like teenage through my early adulthood. So I experienced a big thing pretty young. And yes. I think that helped me put into context, like what feels urgent. Like sometimes maybe it's just currently the universe is being kind to me. Like, I'm just not that stressed about things because I've experienced that one big thing. And so like, I know when I feel like I know when to get stressed. Mm-hmm. I know when I need to have expediency in my life because I need to get a thing done. But I really try to like just be cognizant of like what is worth stressing out about.
Right. It was an event in your life that taught you what was important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
How can listeners find Postal Service for the Dead, and how can they be part of what you're doing?
Yeah. It's a really long title, but everything is Postal Service for the Dead. So that's on Instagram and Facebook. And this whole project is part of my like creative practice, which is called Sleepy Sue. So Sleepy Sue's website is sleepysue.studio. Okay. And then we have a page on our website. But I'm sure we'll provide links that'll be easier to access than me spelling it all out.
Absolutely. I'll put links to sleepysue.studio and to your Instagram account. I follow your Instagram posts. Very cool.
Another way people can be involved is we have merch. And if you visit our website as well, you can buy the merch. We'll have a sweatshirt, a baseball cap, and some stickers, which we mentioned. I guess we did mention this at the top of the call. But I'm also hoping in the future to put together resources for people to feel confident to host their own letter writing events or workshops or parties. So if you're feeling intimidated that you don't want to do this thing alone, in the future, I'll be offering some support on how you could organize other people to come together and write together, walk to the post office together. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Janelle, thank you for sharing such a personal story, such a personal journey with not just my listeners, but all the people who are now going to have the opportunity to write letters. Yeah. For you to become part of their grief expression, part of their grief journey. And maybe just like you, they're going to find some joy and some meaning in that. So thank you for the work that you're doing. It's amazing.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So now you know why I'm one of Janelle's biggest fans. The work that she's doing. She took such a difficult life experience, the loss of her mom, and this little trigger that came up on her mom's birthday, November 30th. And she wanted to send her a birthday card. She wanted to connect and communicate with her mom. So she created Postal Service for the Dead. It's awesome. She was inspired by grief. And can we say that maybe that's an unusual thing? Being inspired by your own grief. I know a lot of people have projects that come out of their grief experience and they create meaning. So maybe the word inspire is right. So just to recap the letter writing process, the writers have the choice of having the letter read or not. They can mark it with a heart on the back, or leave it blank if they don't want it read at all. Or they can mark it with a star on the back of the envelope, and Janelle will not only read it, but the content will be depersonalized, so it's sort of anonymous, and published on social media. It has the potential to be so relatable to people who are grieving. And that's really what she wants. She's creating connection and community. She's also created some rituals for herself, which has a lot of meaning. And I love it that she has created this special ritual of walking to the post office and picking up the mail. She's not talking about junk mail. I walk and get my junk mail all the time. Trust me, that has no meaning for me at all. But to pick up those letters, and she said, the project is very new. She's only getting a few letters a month. But to have that letter, and then she takes it back and she uses her Nana's letter opener that her Nana gave her, just creating that ritual. And it's part of her self-care. She knows as an artist and a writer and a person who's now studying the library sciences that writing through grief can be therapeutic. It can be a really safe place to share grief and feelings. And she's creating meaning from her own loss. I think that's an amazing work, an amazing project. So I would encourage you to connect with Janelle and Postal Service for the Dead on social media. Watch her Instagram account, and you can also connect with her on sleepysue.studio. You'll find a page there for the Postal Service. Be sure to catch the next episode of the Heart of Hospice podcast. You can find more episodes on theheartofhospice.com, and don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can connect with the Heart of Hospice on Facebook and Instagram and send your questions and comments by email to helen@theheartofhospice.com. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.